Hi guys, it's Just Honest Fiction and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my November TBR. Alright guys, so there are a lot of books on this list. I feel like I did a really good job sticking to my October TBR, so we're just going to continue with that trend. Also, there's a decent amount of fantasy and fantasy romance on here just because I just finished Shadow in the Ember and now I'm really on a fantasy romance kick. And then there's some young adult fantasy and adult fantasy, a new graphic novel that just came out that I'm very excited about. And then I think that's it, and then a couple thrillers. So it's a pretty good mix of genres. And I also have 2 rereads on this list, and I'll explain a little bit more about that when I get to those books. And if you're new to my channel, I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. You can also hit that notification bell to be notified whenever I post new bookish content. You can also check out my Instagram. It is linked down in the description below. And with all of that being said and out of the way, let's talk about the books I want to read in November. Alright guys, so I want to break this down by genre, but I want to first talk about the 2 books that I plan on rereading. So the first one is The Crown of Gilded Bones, and this is by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the 3rd book in the From Blood and Ash series. So I recently finished A Shadow in the Ember, and I loved it. You can hear me rave about it in my October wrap-up. But now I want to reread The Crown of Gilded Bones just because A Shadow in the Ember alluded to a lot of things that I feel like if I reread this, I'm going to have a completely different take on it, and I'm very excited. I also want to make a decent amount of Shadow in the Ember content, and I feel like reading this first will help. So I've already read this book. I have a decent amount of videos on this book that I will leave linked in the descriptions and in the cards, but I just want to give this a reread just to find out some new information and see if there were some things I missed the first time around. So this is one of the first books I will be reading in November. And the next reread is a big one, and that is Fated Throne by Carolyn Peckman and Susan Valenti. This is the last book that was released in the Zodiac Academy. I feel like I don't need to tell you guys, I'm obsessed with the Zodiac Academy. It is one of my new favorite series, and the new book is coming out in December, and I'm excited. So I just want to reread this in preparation for the new book coming out. I think I will also be doing a video where I make some guesses as to what I think is going to happen in the next book. So I'm very excited to read that, and this should be a fun time. I really enjoyed this book. I really want to reread the whole series. I just don't think I have time for that right now, but this will definitely be read in early November. All right, moving into young adult fantasy. So I talked about this book, and I just haven't gotten around to reading it, and I really want to. It's very high on my priority list, and that is The Gilded Cage by Lynette Noni. This is the sequel to The Prison Healer, which I really enjoyed. The Prison Healer is following a girl who is sent to this horrible prison known as Zalendov, where she is waiting for her family to come save her. And one day she gets a note that is in the pocket of the rebel queen who has been sentenced to Zalendov saying, "Keep her alive, we're coming from you," and it is from Kiva's family. So then Kiva, in order to keep the rebel queen alive, has to partake in these elemental trials that no one has ever survived. And it goes from there. I've said in other videos, The Prison Healer reminds me of Farah in Akatar when she's under the mountain doing those trials. It's like an entire book of that. There's also a really, really big twist cliffhanger ending that I'm so excited to pick this up and start this. Hopefully I will read this in the next few weeks, and I think it's going to be a really good time. And next up is another young adult novel that I thought I was going to be able to read in October, and I didn't get around to it, and that is Vespertine, and this is by Margaret Rogerson. I have read her 2 other books, and I loved them, and I can't wait to read this. I believe it is about a nun who has this somewhat troubled past. She has scarred hands, and she's kind of looked down upon by the other nuns, and she takes care of these bodies in order for them to not turn into these evil spirits, and I think she accidentally releases this like evil being, and it goes from there. So I've said this also in other videos, I feel like I've had this on my TBR for a while, that Enchantment and Ravens was one of my absolute favorite like autumnal books, and then I also really enjoyed Sorcery of Thorns. However, they felt like 2 completely different works written by 2 completely different authors. So I'm very interested to see if I like this. If you have read this, please let me know down in the comments below what you think, and if you liked her 2 other books. I'm just so curious if I'm gonna like this or not. And next up is an adult fantasy, and it's actually a sequel. So I want to read The Bone Shard Emperor, which is the sequel to The Bone Shard's Daughter. I believe it is being released in the middle of November, which is perfect. I'm really in the mood for a fantasy. And I really enjoyed The Bone Shard's Daughter. It's a multi-perspective story that's following all of these different people that are suffering under this kingdom that uses bone shard magic. And it was just a very enjoyable story. I really enjoyed all of the characters in this. This is probably one of the only books that I loved every different character and every different perspective. I feel like normally in multi-perspective stories, there's always one that I'm like, I have to trudge through this character. But I really enjoyed this. I really thought the magic system was very interesting. It did remind me a little bit of Foundry Side, if you've read that. Overall, I'm very excited. I'm very intrigued to know what is going to happen in the rest of this story. All right, moving into new adult romance. So like I said, I've been in quite a romance mood, and this book has been getting a lot of hype on like Goodreads and Book Talk, and that is Flock by Kate Stewart. I believe this is part of a 3-book series, and I know very little about this. So similar to Credence, which I knew nothing about but ended up really enjoying, I don't think I would have picked Credence up had I known what it was about. So I'm kind of doing a similar thing with Flock. I haven't really looked too much into it, but like I said, the reviews are all very positive. A lot of people really love this series, so I'm very excited to jump into it, and I will definitely be reading it in November. The next new adult romance I'm also really looking forward to reading this month. I was actually hyped by Jess from Peace Love Books. I go to her channel very often for romance book recommendations. I feel like she has very similar taste to me, and that is Age Gap Romance. It's called Don't Kiss the Bride, A Marriage of Convenience, and this just sounds so good. I never knew I enjoyed age gap romance until I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas. Oh my gosh, I love that book so much. And I think this is going to be similar to that. And I'm very excited to read it. And I will let you know how I feel about it in my November wrap up. And the last new adult romance is a book that I'm not even sure if you can classify as new adult romance. It was on my October TBR. I never got around to it, mostly because it started off way different than I was expecting. And that is Planet Barbarians. So I believe this is about a girl who's kidnapped by aliens and then ends up having a relationship with another alien. This gets a lot of talk on BookTube and Book Talk, and I was just very curious. However, this starts off with a very disturbing graphic scene that I just wasn't expecting, and it kind of threw me off kilter while I was reading, so I put it down. I do need to finish this. I'm still curious, so I will hopefully be finishing this. Maybe I'll just finish this today. I mean, it is such a short book. I could probably read this in a few hours, but it's such an interesting, it seems like an interesting premise. So I will read this hopefully by the end of the week, and I will let you all know how I feel about it. Next up is a graphic novel, which is kind of a reread, kind of not. And that is Lore Olympus, and this is by Rachel Smythe. So I actually talked about this in my Hades and Persephone retellings video. So I read this when it was a webtoons, and I am so excited to have a physical copy. I think it's so stunning. I love the artwork. I'll leave a clip of it down below. It's a very pretty art style, and I love this story. It is very slow burn, very slow paced, but I just adore these characters, and I could not wait to get my hands on this book. So super excited to be rereading this. Oh my gosh, I might do a full review on this after I finish it. It's been a while since I read the webtoon, but yes, very excited to be reading this in November. And the last 4 books on this list are all contemporary romance, which is not normally my thing. However, the holiday time, I just want to read rom-coms, essentially. So 2 of these are actually Christmas books that I'm hoping to read in November, so that way I can let you guys know if they're worth picking up, or if I feel they are worth picking up in December. You guys do you. But I don't know, I'm very excited about these books. 2 of them in particular, I can't wait to read. So the first one is Well Matched by Jen Deluca. This goes with the series, I believe, Well Played and I'll leave it on the cover. But I love, or Well Met, I'm sorry, Well Met, Well Played. I love this series. It takes place at a Renaissance fair, and it's just so cute. I just absolutely loved this book. It's one of my absolute favorite contemporary romances, or the first one is Well Met. So I think this will be a good time. This also is featuring one of my favorite characters from the original book, so I'm very excited to see who he ends up with and how this goes. So I will be picking this up. I will say the second book in the series did deal with catfishing, which I didn't really love. However, overall, I did end up liking the story. It just wasn't my favorite. I'm hoping this one is just a little bit better. And next up, we have the contemporary romance that everyone has been talking about and I still have not picked up, and that is The Love Hypothesis. And this is by Hazelwood. Oh my gosh, everyone seems to adore this book. I know it's Raylo fanfic, or it started out as that, and it's just so beloved. I think it's on top, like the top Goodreads romances or something like that. I'm very interested. I think this will be really good. I hope it lives up to the hype, because like I said, everyone seems to love this book. I believe this is I think this is the fake dating trope, which I love. If it is the fake dating trope, that is one of my favorite tropes in romance. So this should be fun, and I'm really looking forward to reading this. And the last two books on this list are both Christmas romances. The first one is Nick and Noel's Christmas Playlist. I love the show or the movie Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, so I don't know if this is based off that. I'm assuming it is because of the title. And I'm sorry, this is by Cody Hall. So I believe this follows, I think this is friends to lovers, where this guy ends up being dumped by his girlfriend, and then he goes out with his friend to like get over it or something of that nature. And it just sounded really cute. I really like the title, so I'm very excited to pick this up. And last up, I have The Holiday Swap, and this is by Maggie Knox. This is following two twin sisters that end up trading places during the holidays, and it just sounds like the perfect Hallmark movie rom-com that I want to read during the holiday time. It also should be a light, fun read, and I have a decent amount of, not heavy books, but some intense books on this list. So I think this will be a fun ending to the month, and I will hopefully be reading this by the end of November. All right, guys, those are all the books I plan on reading in November. Please let me know if you are reading similar books, which book you are most excited to read. Also, let me know if there are any other holiday romances that you guys want me to review. I am really out of the loop when it comes to finding holiday romances, so I would love your recommendations. And I said this already, but I post new videos every Thursday and Sunday, and I will see you all next week. Bye.